Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to crack open the wild world of pulp fiction.
Ooh, Pulp Fiction. Now that's a genre that doesn't hold back.
It really doesn't. And to get us started, we're going to look at one of its masters, a guy named Lester Dent.
Lester Dent.
Yeah, the creator of Doc Savage.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know Doc
He was
Savage.
incredibly prolific. He wrote over 150
Oh,
novels
150.
in just 16 years. That's an average of 10 books every year.
That's crazy. How did he do that?
Well, he had a secret weapon, the Lester Dent Master Plot Formula.
A formula, like a recipe for stories.
You could say that. It's a framework that helps you build a story that really grabs the reader and keeps them hooked.
Interesting.
And the amazing thing is, this formula isn't just limited to pulp fiction.
Oh, really?
Yeah, its principles can be found in all sorts of genres, from modern thrillers to classic literature.
Wow, so it's like a universal blueprint for good storytelling.
Exactly. So are you ready to dive into the formula itself?
I'm all ears.
All right, let's do it. So what exactly is the Lester Dent Master Plot Formula?
Well, at its core, it's a way to structure a story in 4 equal parts.
4 parts.
Yeah, and each part has a specific job to do to keep the story flowing and the reader on the edge of their seat.
So it's all about pacing and keeping things exciting.
Exactly. And there's more. It also emphasizes action and suspense with plenty of plot twists to keep the reader guessing.
So it's like a recipe for a real page-turner.
Precisely.
But wait, if every story uses this formula, wouldn't they all end up feeling the same?
That's where the art of storytelling comes in. Think of the formula as a set of tools, like a carpenter's toolkit.
Ah, I see what you mean.
The tools themselves don't guarantee a good chair or table, right? It's the skill of the carpenter that makes the difference.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Same with the formula. It provides the structure, but the writer still needs to bring their own creativity, characters, and ideas to life.
So it's like a foundation you can build on.
That's a great way to put it.
All right, I'm getting a better picture of how this works. So, where does it all begin? How does this 4-part structure actually play out?
Well, Dent believed in grabbing the reader's attention right from the start.
You mean like jumping right into the action?
Yeah, he actually said to hit your hero with trouble right out of the gate, if possible, in the very first line.
Wow, no easing in with descriptions of the setting or backstory?
Nope, straight to the action. It's like watching a movie that starts with an explosion.
Oh, I see.
Instantly you're hooked, wondering what caused it and who's involved.
Yeah, you've got to keep watching to find out.
Exactly. That's the kind of impact Dent was aiming for.
So we have our hero in trouble, and the clock is ticking from page 1. What else needs to happen in this first part?
Well, this is also where you introduce your main characters and establish the hero's goal.
Okay, so we're setting the stage.
Right, and you've got to show the stakes. Why should the reader care about what happens to the hero?
Yeah, you've got to give them a reason to root for the hero.
Exactly, and this all has to happen pretty quickly.
It sounds like a lot to pack into the first part of the story.
It is, but Dent was all about efficiency. And then, just when the reader thinks they've got things figured out, bam, he hits them with a twist.
A twist, like a surprise.
Exactly, something that challenges their assumptions, maybe introduces a new mystery, or even changes the direction of the story completely.
So it's like pulling the rug out from under the reader's feet.
Exactly.
I can see how that would keep readers on the edge of their seats.
You got it. It creates anticipation, that need to keep reading to find out what happens next. And that brings us to part 2, where things get even more intense.
Okay, I'm already hooked. Tell me more.
Oh, we've only just begun.
All right, so we've got the hero in trouble. We know the other characters. We've had our first twist. Where do we go from here?
Well, in part 2, Dent says to double down on the trouble. The hero's initial attempts to solve the problem, they backfire.
So it's like taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back.
Exactly. And the stakes, they just keep getting higher.
Man, Dent really didn't like to let his heroes off easy, did he?
Nope, not at all. But to keep things interesting, he suggests adding smaller surprises throughout this section. Not major twists like in part 1, but little things to keep the reader guessing.
Like little sparks to keep the fire going.
Precisely. And all this builds to the end of part 2, where the hero faces their biggest challenge yet. Often it ends in what seems like a totally hopeless situation.
Ooh, that's a cliffhanger. I'm dying to know what happens next.
Well, you'll have to wait for the next part of our deep dive to find out.
All right, I guess I can wait, but I'm already on the edge of my seat.
Good, that's exactly where Dent would want you to be.
So until next time, keep those pages turning.
Welcome back. Last time we left our hero in a real bind, facing what seemed like impossible odds.
Yeah, things weren't looking so good.
Not at all. Now in part 3, we enter what Dent calls the black moment, the hero's lowest point.
Black moment, huh? Sounds intense.
It is. Everything they've tried has failed. The stakes are higher than ever, and hope is fading fast.
It sounds like a recipe for despair. Why put the hero through that?
Well, it's all about building up to that moment of triumph, when the hero finally overcomes everything.
Oh, I see. So it makes their eventual victory even more satisfying.
Exactly. It's like climbing a mountain. The harder the climb, the more amazing the view from the top.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Think about Frodo in The Lord of the Rings. He reaches Mordor, but at a huge cost. He's lost friends, he's exhausted, and the ring's power over him is growing stronger. It seems like all is lost.
Wow. Yeah, you really feel for him in that moment.
Right, and that's exactly what Dent was going for. He wants you, the reader, to feel that tension and suspense.
So what happens next? Does the hero just magically find a solution?
Not a chance. Part 4 is where they use everything they've learned and experienced to finally triumph. But it's not about brute force or luck. It's about growth and transformation.
So all those challenges they faced actually served a purpose.
Absolutely. Each challenge was a test, a chance to learn and grow. By part 4, they've developed the skills and knowledge they need to overcome that final obstacle.
It's like their journey has forged them into the person they need to be.
Exactly. And often as they face that final challenge, they discover something new about themselves or the situation.
Something that helps them turn things around.
Exactly. It could be a hidden strength, a clever strategy, or even just a piece of information they missed before.
So it's not just about defeating the bad guy. It's about the hero becoming a better version of themselves.
You got it. That sense of transformation is a key part of why the Lester-Dent formula works so well.
Makes the victory feel earned.
Precisely. But hold on, Dent isn't done yet. Just when you think it's all wrapped up, he throws in one final twist.
Wait, another twist? I thought we were done with twists back in part 1.
Those were just the appetizers. This is the main course, the twist that changes how you see the whole story.
What? Okay, so it's not just a surprise ending. It actually adds another layer to the story.
Exactly. Imagine finishing a puzzle and thinking you have the whole picture. But then someone hands you one more piece that changes everything.
Mind blown.
Right. And then to really drive it home, Dent ends with a strong punchline.
Punchline. Isn't that for jokes?
Not necessarily. In storytelling, it can be any final, impactful line or moment that gives you closure, but also makes you think.
So it's like the last note of a song that keeps echoing in your mind.
Perfectly put. It's about leaving a lasting impression on the reader. Now, before we finish up with Dent's formula, we should talk about some of the criticism it's gotten.
Oh, yeah. What kind of criticism?
Well, some people worry that using a formula like this makes stories predictable and unoriginal.
I can see that if everyone uses the same formula, won't all the stories end up feeling similar?
It's a valid concern, but the formula is just a framework, a set of guidelines that doesn't dictate the content of the story.
So it's up to the writer to fill in the blanks with their own unique ideas.
Exactly. The formula ensures the story is well-paced and engaging, but it's the writer's creativity that makes it truly special.
So it's like a balancing act.
Yeah.
Using the formula as a tool without letting it control you. You know, this reminds me of Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. There are some similarities there, right?
Definitely. Both Dent and Campbell understood that stories have a certain structure, and they highlighted things like the hero facing challenges and ultimately coming out on top.
But Campbell's work was more about universal patterns found in myths and stories from all over the world, while Dent focused on pulp fiction.
That's right. Campbell was interested in these big overarching themes, while Dent was more focused on the practical side of crafting a good genre story.
So they were coming at it from different angles.
Exactly. Campbell was a scholar, Dent was a working writer, sharing his tricks of the trade.
But both have had a huge impact on how we understand and appreciate storytelling.
Absolutely.
So what does all this mean for our listeners? What could they take away from our deep dive into the Lester-Dent master plot formula?
Well, it gives them a new way to look at their favorite stories.
Yeah.
Can you spot those 4 parts, the twists, the punchline?
It's like having a secret code to crack open any story.
Exactly. And more importantly, it helps them understand the skill that goes into creating a great story. It's like learning to appreciate a fine piece of art.
And hey, maybe some of our listeners will be inspired to try writing their own stories using Dent's formula.
Now, that would be awesome.
After all, the best way to learn is by doing right. So what unique twist would you add to make the formula your own?
That's a great question. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Lester-Dent master plot formula. We left off with our hero at their absolute lowest point.
Yeah, things were looking pretty grim, weren't they?
Definitely. But now, in part 4, it's time for them to make their big comeback.
That's right, it's escape time. But remember, Dent wasn't one for easy solutions.
He did love to pile on the trouble, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he definitely believed in making his heroes work for it. He even said shovel the difficulties more thickly upon the hero. Get the hero almost buried in his troubles.
Sounds a little harsh, but I guess it makes the payoff that much sweeter.
Exactly. The hero's escape should be a result of everything they've learned and experienced throughout the story.
So, no random strokes of luck or Deus Ex Machina moments.
Nope. It's all about using their hard-won knowledge and skills to outsmart their adversaries and turn the tables.
It's like all those trials and tribulations they went through were actually part of the plan.
You got it. It's like they were being forged in the fires of adversity.
Makes their victory all the more satisfying, I guess.
Exactly. Imagine if they just stumbled upon a lucky break or someone swooped in to save them. It wouldn't feel earned.
Right, it'd feel kind of cheap, like the writer was taking a shortcut.
Exactly. But Dent didn't stop there. He had one more trick up his sleeve.
Another trick, you mean like a twist?
You guessed it. And this isn't just any old twist. This is the big one, the one that changes how you see the entire story.
Hold on, we already talked about twist back in part 1.
Those are just the opening act. This is the grand finale, the twist that throws everything you thought you knew into question.
So it's like a final reveal that changes everything.
Exactly. It might expose the real villain or reveal a hidden motive that makes you rethink everything.
Wow, that's pretty clever. It keeps you guessing until the very end.
That's Dent for you, always keeping his readers on the edge of their seats.
He was a master of suspense, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And to top it all off, he ends with a strong punchline.
Wait, a punchline? I thought those were for jokes.
Not always. In storytelling, a punchline is any impactful line or moment that gives you closure but also makes you think.
So it's like a final thought that lingers in your mind after you finish the story.
Exactly. It could be a witty remark from the hero, or a glimpse into their future, or even just a thought-provoking question.
Yeah. Like the echo of a bell long after it's been rung.
Perfectly said. It's all about making a lasting impact on the reader.
Well, it sounds like Lester Dent knew a thing or two about crafting a good story.
He was definitely a master of his craft.
And I think we've all learned a lot from diving into his master plot formula.
Me too. It's amazing to see how a simple framework can be used to create such compelling and memorable stories.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a challenge. Now that you know the secrets of the formula, why not put it to the test yourself?
Oh, I like that. A challenge for our listeners.
Think about your favorite stories. Can you spot the 4 parts, the twists, the punchline, and maybe even try your hand at writing your own story using Dent's formula as a guide?
Who knows? You might just surprise yourself with what you come up with.
So until next time, keep those creative juices flowing. And remember,
there's a pulp fiction writer in all of us just waiting to break free.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another exciting adventure into the world of storytelling.